Just hours ago, explosions tore through a neighborhood in South Tehran. At least 12 people are dead, 28 more are wounded. And this is not some remote military outpost or a bunker deep underground. This is a residential district, a place where people live, a place where families go about their day. And here's what makes this moment different from all the others we've covered in the past few weeks. This strike happened while the world was being told that talks were underway, that a deal might be close, that there was finally a sliver of hope. So what is really going on? And why does it feel like every time diplomacy gets mentioned, a new explosion follows? Stay with me, because this one is important. According to Al Jazeera and multiple sources on the ground, a joint U.S.-Israeli strike hit South Tehran earlier today, killing at least 12 people and wounding 28 others. This is the latest in a relentless campaign of airstrikes that has been hammering Iran since February 28th, the day the 2026 Iran war officially began. That's now more than 3 weeks of near-continuous bombardment. But today's strike in South Tehran isn't just another line in a casualty report. It's a signal. Because South Tehran, unlike the military complexes and command centers that have been targeted in the north and east of the city, is densely populated. It's working class. It's ordinary people. Iran's state media has confirmed the attack. Emergency crews were on the scene, and the images coming out are exactly what you'd expect. Rubble, smoke, and people in shock. But here's where things get interesting. Just before this strike, U.S. President Donald Trump had gone on record saying that negotiations with Iran were underway, that Iran, quote, wants to make a deal. Iran's military dismissed that claim almost immediately. And then, the bombs fell again. So here's the question you should be asking right now. If talks are supposedly happening, even quietly, even through back channels, why are the strikes not only continuing, but intensifying? Is this pressure tactics? Is someone trying to force Iran's hand at the negotiating table? Or is the talk of diplomacy itself just noise, a way to manage oil markets and public opinion, while the military campaign rolls on? The real reason behind this is more complicated than either side wants to admit. And to understand it, we need to go back a little. This war didn't start on February 28th. Not really. The roots go back to 2024, when Israel and Iran openly attacked each other for the first time in decades. An Israeli airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus. Then Iranian missile barrages at Israel. Then Israeli drones over Iran. The pattern of escalation had already begun. In 2025, a short but devastating conflict, later called the 12-Day War, saw Israel strike deep into Iranian territory, targeting missile systems, military commanders, and nuclear-linked facilities. A ceasefire was eventually brokered, but it never really held. Both sides used the months that followed to rebuild, rearm, and reposition. Then came February 2026. U.S.-Iran nuclear talks collapsed. And rather than return to the table, the United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes on Iran, beginning what is now the full-scale 2026 Iran war. Since that first night of strikes, Iran has seen its military headquarters bombed, its oil facilities set on fire, its airports targeted, and its neighborhoods shaken by explosions. According to Iran's own health ministry, over 1,500 civilians have been killed. Iranian Red Crescent figures suggest more than 80,000 civilian structures have been hit in some form. Iran, for its part, has not stayed quiet. It has launched waves of missiles and drones at Israel, struck U.S. military bases across the Gulf, threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which roughly 1/5 of the world's oil supply flows, and warned it will hit power plants in countries hosting American forces. This is not a limited strike campaign anymore. This is a war. Now, if you look closely at the last 72 hours, a very specific tension is playing out. Trump issued a 48-hour ultimatum last weekend: open the Strait of Hormuz or face strikes on Iran's power plants. Iran called it a bluff and responded by saying it was ready to close the strait indefinitely. Oil prices have surged nearly 40% since the war began, and the global economy is watching nervously. At the same time, there are reports of quiet diplomatic efforts. Pakistan, Egypt, and Gulf diplomats apparently working behind the scenes to get both sides to a table. These talks are fragile, unofficial, and deeply complicated by the fact that Iran has been burned before. The February 28th strikes, the ones that started this whole war, reportedly came while diplomatic signals were still being exchanged. Iran remembers that. So when Trump says talks are happening, Iran's military calls it fake news, and then another neighborhood in Tehran gets hit. What we're watching is a war being fought on two tracks simultaneously: missiles in the air and words in backrooms. And right now, the missiles are winning. Let's walk through how we got to today's South Tehran strike. It starts with the February 28th opening salvo, a massive joint U.S.-Israeli attack targeting Iran's military leadership, nuclear-linked sites, and infrastructure. Iran retaliated fast, launching missiles at Israel and U.S. assets across the region. Through early March, the strikes escalated on both sides. Tehran saw explosions in its northern neighborhoods, its central districts, its eastern corridors. Fuel depots were hit, causing what witnesses described as rivers of fire in the streets and toxic black rain falling on the city. The WHO issued health warnings. By mid-March, the U.S. had confirmed over a dozen American military fatalities. More than 1,100 children had been killed or injured across the region, according to UNICEF. In the last week, the pace has not slowed. If anything, it has picked up. And today's strike in South Tehran is the latest chapter in a conflict that shows no clear off-ramp. The ripple effects of this war are being felt far beyond Iran and Israel. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, all of them have intercepted Iranian missiles or drones on their territory. Some have been hit. Energy facilities across the Gulf have been targeted, causing oil and gas prices to spike to levels not seen in years. Lebanon is back in crisis, with over 1 million people displaced, and Israeli strikes killing more than 1,000 people there too. Iraq has repeatedly asked the U.S. not to use its territory as a launch pad, while Iranian-backed groups there continue striking American positions. Russia is watching carefully. Ukraine's President Zelensky publicly warned that a prolonged Iran war benefits Moscow, as Western attention and resources shift eastward. And globally, the markets are rattled. Brent crude is hovering above $100 a barrel. Airlines are rerouting. Global supply chains are feeling the pressure. This is no longer just a Middle East story, it is a world story. So where does this go from here? There are a few possibilities on the table. 1. The back-channel talks actually gain traction. Iran, exhausted and under pressure, agrees to a framework to pause hostilities. Some Gulf mediators get credit. A fragile ceasefire holds, at least for a while. It's possible. But given how many times this cycle has repeated itself, it would take an extraordinary diplomatic effort. 2. The strikes continue to escalate. The U.S. carries out its threat to hit Iranian power plants. Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, and the world enters a full-blown energy crisis on top of an active war. 3. And this is the one that keeps regional analysts up at night. Something unpredictable happens. A strike hits the wrong target. A nuclear-adjacent facility is damaged in a way that creates a radiological risk. A Gulf state gets pulled in more directly, and the conflict mutates into something that no one planned for and no one knows how to stop. The truth is, nobody in this situation has a clean exit. Iran can't back down without looking defeated. The U.S. and Israel can't stop without something to show for it. And the people of Tehran, ordinary people in South Tehran today, are paying the price for calculations made in rooms they were never invited into. 12 people died in South Tehran today. Not generals, not commanders, people. And the world kept moving. Markets fluctuated. Diplomats exchanged statements. Leaders gave press conferences. But here's what I want to leave you with. Every time a conflict like this one gets reduced to strategy and geopolitics and negotiating leverage, the human cost gets blurred. And then, gradually, the unthinkable starts to feel normal. Don't let it feel normal. Stay informed. Keep asking questions. And remember that behind every number in a headline, there's a life that matters. If this video gave you some clarity on what's happening, share it. Subscribe if you want to stay ahead of this story as it develops. And drop a comment. What do you think comes next? I'll see you in the next one.